I know you've watched too many motivational stories, and maybe nothing ever really changed. But I promise if you stay till the end of this story, it won't just inspire you. It might change how you live your life forever. In a quiet village many years ago lived a man named George. He was kind at heart, but his emotions ruled him completely. When angry, he shouted. When sad, he isolated himself. When jealous, he burned inside. When praised, he became proud. Everyone in the village liked him, but few respected him, for he was a man controlled by his moods. One day, after losing his temper in front of his family, George sat by the river and whispered, "Why do my emotions control me? Can I ever be free from them?" As George pondered, an old sage appeared, collecting water in a clay pot. The sage looked at him and smiled. "Your face is like a stormy sky, young man. The waves of emotion are drowning your peace." George bowed. "Master, can one ever control the heart?" The sage replied, "Not control, my son. Master to control is to fight. To master is to understand. If you wish to master your emotions, complete a task I shall give you." George asked eagerly, "What must I do?" The sage said, "For 7 days, live among your emotions. Observe them, but do not act upon them. Every day will bring a test. If you pass all, you shall see your true self." George agreed, and thus began his 7-day journey, a task that would change his soul forever. On the first day, as George repaired his fence, his neighbor's cattle broke through and trampled his garden. His blood boiled, he wanted to shout, but he remembered the sage's words, "Observe, don't act." He took a deep breath, looked at the ruined plants, and said quietly, "I will rebuild." For the first time, his anger passed like a wave. It came, it rose, and it fell without destroying him. He smiled faintly. Day 1 was done. That night, a storm raged. The wind howled, the roof shook. Fear gripped him. He wanted to run, but he remembered. Observe, don't act. He sat still, watching his fear like a spectator. The more he watched, the smaller it became until it vanished into silence. He realized, fear lives in the future, not in this moment. By dawn, George felt something new, a small flame of peace. But 5 days and 5 emotions still awaited him. He did not yet know that one of them would almost break him completely. On the 3rd day, George saw his childhood friend John praised by villagers for his wealth. Jealousy stung like fire. But again, he whispered, "Observe." He felt the burn inside his chest. He didn't suppress it, he just watched. Slowly, the fire cooled, and he understood. Jealousy is comparing my path to another's. The sun and moon both shine, but never at the same time. On the 4th day, he visited his mother's hut, the place of his childhood. Memories flooded him. Tears came, uninvited. He sat and wept, but without drowning in the sorrow. He said softly, "Sadness is not my enemy. It reminds me that I once loved deeply." For the first time, he let sadness pass through him without clinging to it. On the 5th day, the villagers began noticing his peace. They said, "George has changed. He's wiser now." And within him, pride whispered, "You are better than them." He almost believed it, but then he laughed. He remembered the sage's voice. Pride is the most dangerous emotion. It disguises itself as virtue. He bowed his head and said, "I am not better. I am only learning." By the 5th evening, George felt lighter, as if layers of darkness were falling away. But the final 2 days would test him like never before. Love and compassion, 2 emotions that could either free him or bind him forever. On the 6th day, George found a bird with a broken wing. He cared for it, fed it, and soon grew attached. When the bird healed and flew away, he felt pain, the ache of loss. He cried, "Why does love hurt?" And then he realized, true love is not holding on, it's letting go. His heart softened. He smiled as the bird disappeared into the sky. That night, a beggar knocked at his door, shivering in the rain. George had little food left, only enough for himself. For a moment, selfishness whispered, "Keep it." But compassion spoke louder. He shared his last meal and watched the man sleep peacefully by the fire. At that moment, he felt something indescribable, peace, deeper than joy, lighter than pride. He realized he had finally mastered his emotions, not by fighting them, but by understanding them. The next morning, George returned to the sage. He bowed deeply. "Master, I have watched anger burn, fear shake, jealousy bite, sadness cry, pride rise, love bind, and compassion heal. I did not fight them, I learned from them." The sage smiled. "Then you have learned the greatest truth, my son. Emotions are not your enemies, they are your teachers. When you stop reacting and start listening, you become the master. Always remember, anger shows where you need patience, fear shows where you need courage, jealousy shows what you truly desire. Sadness shows where love once lived. Pride reminds you to stay humble. Compassion makes you whole." Maybe you've watched many motivational stories and forgotten them the next day, but if you truly felt George's journey, then remember this: mastering your emotions is mastering your life. Share this story with someone lost in their own storm, and remind them that peace begins within.